Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from inkybutterfly.com. Thank you for joining me today for the Stamp Around UK video hop. So a whole host of UK demonstrators are gathering together to bring you these videos all around a theme on the first of the month. So February's here, and this time round it's a fun fold, fancy fold theme. So the card I'm making today is a variation on something which I think is called a Dutch fold. I don't generally make fancy fold cards, but you know, I see others, other demos making them and stuff. So this is what I've made. So it's got a shorter front flap and then these little flaps in the middle, but it does stand up, so those flaps become sort of a triangle base for it to sit up and give you this nice look on the front. Okay, so that's really cute, right? So that's what we're going to be making. We've got the painted lavender bundle, photopolymer stamp set and coordinating dies. The sentiment I'm taking from the Enduring Beauty set, and I'm also using these everyday detail dies as the sort of feature on the front as well. Okay, so those are the stamps and dies. I will also be using an embossing folder. I think I'm going to be using the Softly Sophisticated 3D embossing folder instead of this one. This is the quatrefoil one, but that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to show you how I've made mine. Like I say, I didn't have a look at any measurements or anything. I just sort of went with the idea and made my way through it. So to start off with, the first thing is I'm starting off with what would have been a regular card base, but I've just trimmed it off at the bottom to make this a 4-inch panel down from the top there. So that's the sort of back, if you like. And then I've got another piece of basic white here, which measures just short, so just cut it a little shorter than what you would do normally for like a car panel. So for me, I would cut this to 5 3/4 high. So I've just taken it just a little edge off because it's got to sit inside the card and not interfere with the crease. So just take an extra hair off. Okay, and then it is 8 1/4 wide, which will allow us to have the 4 1/8 section in the middle, which is the width of the card, plus room for the flaps on the edge. Okay, so I've already scored this just to try and save a little bit of time, because it's kind of you know, a bit more complex card. I don't want to be here taking up too much of your time, but I've already scored 2 1/16 of an inch into this. So yeah, that's a fiddly little mark, but if you look at your trimmer, especially if you've got a Stampin' Up trimmer, so the 2-inch mark is here, and then we've got these big marks which are half, then we've got 1/4, we've got 1/8. So this one little mark here is the 1/16 mark. So that's where I have scored it at both ends. Okay, and now we're going to do a little bit of jiggery-pokery with the other section. So I'm going to make the bottom flap. So I've turned this on the side now, so it's going to fold like that, or like this. Okay, and so this is going to be the bottom where the flap's going to be, and I want that to be 3 inches. So I'm going to take this and pop it in at the 3-inch mark, and I'm going to use the the cutting blade, and I'm going to cut down to that score line. Oh, that blade's just come loose, so let me just pop that back in. Okay, so I'm just going to take the blade all the way to the top there. Now this is going to be a little difficult for you to see, but there's a little line on the trimmer blade, okay, which will help you sort of see how far down you need to cut. And if you haven't quite made it, we can just make it with the finish it off with the scissors. There is a measure on here, but again, unless you're right on top of it, you can't necessarily see it, but just go steady all the way to there, okay? Then I'm going to lift it up without moving the cardstock, and I'm going to shuffle that down to the bottom and come up to the score line at the bottom as well, okay, like so. Okay, so now we've got our score lines in place and we've all cut away our free flap. Now we want to get rid of these ones, okay? So we want to cut away this and we want to cut away that. Okay, so we're going to flip it round and we're going to line up this score line just with the cutting track, okay? And again, we're going to trim all the way, and we're going to look for where that cut line's already been made. Okay, sometimes you can feel it, and again, if you haven't quite made it, we'll just finish it off with some scissors, but that's just come away beautifully. Okay, and we're going to do the same with this one. Line up that score line with the cutting blade, and we'll just trim that away as well. Okay, you can totally do this with scissors if you want, if you're not comfortable doing that with the trimmer. So this one hasn't quite come away, but I think a little gentle tug is going to give that make that come away. So now we should have something that will fit nicely inside the card, and we'll have our flaps that we can fold in. Okay, but before we do that, we're going to do a little bit of stamping. Okay, so the score line is on the top here, so we're going to be folding this way. Okay, so the bits that's going to show at the front on this side will be the flaps, but this side we will have all of this showing. Okay, so I'm going to bring in some scrap paper or grid paper or whatever you've got, and we're going to use these stamps to create the interest in the middle there. So the larger one is going to sort of make the background, and we're going to stamp that with bubble bath ink. And we're just going to, like I say, it's these flaps we want to kind of cover. So we're going to do that real quick, varying the height of the stamp. I'm not worrying about the bottom because we're going to do some more stamping over there as well. So it's just to lay down foundation of colour in the background. So just straight on and off, here and there. Doesn't matter if it's got gaps and everything. We're just gonna get that popped in. Let's finish with bubble bath. Then I'm going to bring in Highland Heather, and we're going to swap to this smaller stamp. So this is obviously a little darker. So this is going to bring a little bit of depth and detail. To the image. And again, we're looking to get different parts of the stamp. I'm not actually, a couple of these are just stamping a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Just using it to fill it in a little bit. And we're going to go over this again with this same stamp, but with Blackberry Bliss. Okay. So once more, but this time with Blackberry Bliss. Much darker colour. May not want as much, you know, just go with it. If you wanted to stop at the Highland Heather stage, you could. So as always, just offering some serving suggestions of how you can make this and decorate this. On the original card, actually used Gorgeous Grape as the darkest colour rather than the Blackberry Bliss. Okay, so that's all done, so I'm just going to pop that away, get that out of the way, and I'm just going to clean this off real quick because that pink ink does stain somewhat, so I just want to get that off straight away. And just minimise that staining. Okay, so there we go, that's our inside and our flaps all done. That's going to be covered up, so we don't need to worry about that. And now we can just fold these and burnish that score line so that they're going to sit nicely. And because we did it at 2 1/16, they meet nicely in the middle. Okay, so that's that inside flap all done. I'm going to pop that to one side just for a second. Now before we do anything with this, I want to do the embossing over this flap. So we're going to line up the flap. You could do this before you cut it down if you wanted to. We're going to pop the flap into the embossing folder and just line that up. Just looking to get that nice and straight because we just want the flap done. So we're going to run that through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine using our base platform and our dark grey embossing plate. So just run that through. Now we've got some embossing on our front flap, like so, and we can just pop just a little bit of ink on this just to help lift that up. And this is just the residual ink that happens to be on the blending brush from the last time I used it, so it could be a whole mix of all sorts of colours on there, but we're just gonna go with it. Okay, totally optional, don't have to do that, but I thought it just helped lift that that colour a little bit. Okay, so there we go, that's our card base, which means we can now pop this inside. Okay, so we'll flip that over, and I'm just going to use my stamping seal, okay, just to secure that inside the card. So I'm going to line up at the bottom so it stands nicely. Just looking at those score lines, lining it up, and then just dropping that down. Like so. Okay, so those fold in and that comes down on the top. So that's the basis of our card all done with those lovely flaps in the middle. Okay, so for the topper, I'm going to I've already cut out one of these rectangles with the little squares there, And I'm going to need a piece of Blackberry Bliss, which I have forgotten to get out. So let's just raid my scraps here. There we go. So this piece of Blackberry Bliss is going to need to be, I've forgotten the dimensions. It's 3 7/8 long. I can't remember how long it needs to be. 2 3/8. That's what it needs to be. 2 3/8 wide. So what I've just realised is I'd cut one in gorgeous grape by 3 7/8 of an inch. 2 3/8 by 3 7/8. I'd cut some gorgeous grape, but my feature colour on this one is going to be Blackberry Bliss, and that should be just about big enough for that to layer on top of. So we'll just layer that together. So it's just a little border, but obviously those lovely dots will shine through on there as well, which is really, really cute. Okay, so that's going to go on top of there, and of course that will all help weigh that down. You want to make sure that these are really nicely burnished as well, which will help it sit. Okay, if you score that on the back, you won't squash your embossing, so that's already sitting a little flatter than it was. So that's what we've got there. I've already gone ahead and die cut ahead of time these elements, so I used some other stamps in the set. So I've got 2 sets of stalks which I stamped in Old Olive, then I used Highland Heather and Blackberry Bliss for the other elements. So we're just going to pop these together and just overlap them a little bit to sort of make a nice full bunch of lavender, if you like. And then this one's going to go over the top, like so. We're also going to pop one of these stem sections onto the back and sandwich this one over the bottom half, which will give it some rigidity. And then have that feature at the front there. It gives us a nice sturdy topper piece that we can pop onto our card. Okay, so we can use some wet glue for that. Don't need loads of it, just enough. Okay, now, and then we can pop this onto the card front, and I'm looking to get this so that it makes an even-ish border. So I'm just putting glue on the top half of that, so we don't want to close our card and seal it shut. Okay, so I'm just going to look to make this central about there. Okay, and not too far up either. There we go. So looking to get that border something like even, but not. Okay, let's give that a firm push, and no glues on the bottom there. Okay, and then finally we've just got a lovely little sentiment that I took from that Enduring Beauty stamp set. A few mini dimensionals onto the back of that, and I've stamped that in Blackberry Bliss and fussy cut that out. And that sits beautifully across the bottom there to bring everything together. Okay, and that's sitting reasonably flat now. Okay, So there we go, that's our variation of that fold. Like I said, I think it's called a Dutch fold, and it does stand up, okay, like so. And we've got the lovely decoration on the front, on those flaps, and then of course there is space to write your message in the middle. Okay, so a bit different from me. Not my usual kind of card, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Do stop by and look at the links in the description of this video. There's loads of other ones taking part, and I'm sure they'll have loads of fantastic ideas for you as well. Alright, thanks for joining me today for a slightly longer video, but I hope it was worth it. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.